Besides the benefits of toe splay with the Gait Happens Toe Spacers, we also have the ability to modify or customize the toe spacer for your needs. So this is a very important video because I wanted to go through several ways that you can make the toe spacer fit for you better. So first, if you find that the toe spacer is sliding off of your foot, what you can do is trim the bottom of the spacer. So underneath in between the first and second toes, you can actually cut right at the bottom of the toe spacer between the first and fifth digits. It will then slide onto the foot better, and then you won't have that problem with it sliding off. So to modify these toe spacers to slide onto the foot better, you're simply going to trim right at the base of the toe spacer. So I'm going to make sure that I don't cut into the hole. So I'm just going to trim right underneath. So it basically shortens the toe spacer so it can slide on better. I'm going to do that both at the little toe and then also at the big toe. And this will cut pretty easily. Okay, and then you can just slide that on. You can also kind of like trim those edges if they bother you. Okay, so that is the first modification, is that you can cut off the bottom so that they slide onto the foot better. Okay? The second thing, for those of you with hammer toes, especially if the hammer toe is more stiff, you can cut where the hammer toe is. So I'll cut like a little window on top of the toe spacer. So for example, if I have a hammer toe at my second toe, so the toe spacer would be like this. This piece of material can irritate where the hammer toe is. So I'm again going to cut basically like a little half moon under the orthotic, or excuse me, under the toe spacer, so that I have a little space. It has a little room to breathe there. Okay, so that is for hammer toes. You can do that at different places in the toe spacer. Another modification to consider is for those of you that have more of a fat pad underneath the sole of the foot. Sometimes when the toe spacer is sitting at the bottom of the toes, it can dig into the top of the foot. So this is a very easy modification. What you would do here is, again, just make room for it. So you can cut basically a line going across the bottom of the toe spacer. So I'm just going to trim and basically increase that half moon. My 14-year-old could do a better job of this than I am, apparently. But you'll see how it'll be able to slide down my foot better, so that there's less material digging into the ball of the foot. Okay, so far we have three modifications. Cut underneath 1 and 5 so it slides down. You can cut for the hammer toes, and you can cut for the fat pad if it's digging into the bottom of the foot. Another modification is for those of you who have more of a fat pad or more tissue on the tips of the toes. So again, wherever this material is, if it feels like it's pinching, you can modify it. So right underneath the toe here, you can see how there's material. So when we modify the spacer for the hammer toe, it's going to be on the bottom of the spacer. When you modify it for this fat pad at the tips of the toes, it would be on the top of it. So you would do the same process. You would just cut this little half moon, but on the top of the spacer, so that when it fits onto your toe, you're going to have less pinching where the digit is. And finally, one of my favorite features of the Gait Happens Toe Spacers is the ability to place cork within the toe spacer. As you can see with the toe spacer, there's windows in between the first and second toes and the fourth and fifth toes. If you notice that the spacer is sliding up in between 1 and 2, placing the cork in these little windows will stiffen up the spacer and allow for a better fit. When I first started wearing mine, I couldn't wear the spacer yet. My toe wasn't splaying well. But now that it is, I'm not going to go up to a size medium. I'm going to keep the small, but I put the cork in between 1 and 2, and it just creates a little more stiffness within the spacer. This is what we really want you to pay attention to. In the Cork Supplement, you're going to see 2 different pieces that slide in the big toe and 2 different pieces that can go within digits 4 and 5. This Cork supplement is real cork, and it was designed to be placed as a perfect fit into the large toe spacer. Therefore, if you have a small or medium, this is important. You don't want to try to jam the large into the small or medium. It's a very easy modification. You would simply measure where that cork fits into the window, and then you're going to mark it, and then you're simply going to cut it. And again, this should be a very easy modification. So I just trimmed the cork, and then I can place it right in the window in between 1 and 2, and you have a perfectly modified toe spacer.